Welcome, everybody, back to the Old Gold Show with you as always. I'm your host, co-manager over at Hammer and Rails, Andrew Ledman.
And I'm Casey, just a chief in the world, Bartley.
We're recording the day after the Super Bowl.
That's
Chiefs
a
are
timely
champions.
reference.
Chiefs are champions once again. Taylor Swift now gets a Super Bowl ring, I believe, by law. We'll see. Did you take the bet? I saw online if it was like plus 100,000 that she was going to get proposed to after the game.
Oh, I did not. I'm real lazy at prop bets. So like if they're not right on the front page, like I'm not scrolling
Not gonna
through
find
to
them.
see what's interesting. Yeah, it's just
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So we're not talking Super Bowl today, although no Purdue basketball related, but George Karlaftis, Purdue football, did get his
really
second Super Bowl ring in 2 years and had a really great game. Recovered a fumble, sacks, got a couple tackles, quarterback sack, tackle for loss, I believe, as well. Just great game for him. But this is a basketball podcast. We're going to talk about Purdue taking down IU in the second half. For now, we're going to talk about the Big Ten race. And Casey, I said I had a question I wanted to ask you.
It's true.
With the events of this last weekend where Wisconsin got beat again, now can't seem to win a game.
They might be broke.
Yeah, we might have broken them. Or Nebraska might have broken them since they played before, but who knows? And then since Illinois lost as well, giving Purdue now a 2.5 game cushion in the Big Ten race. Is the Big Ten race over? Is it done?
Lemon. It was over the last time we talked.
I knew you were going to say something like that.
It was over when the season started. But yeah, you have to do a whole lot of work to come up with that many losses on Purdue's schedule.
Yeah.
Like could you theoretically say Purdue's going to slip up twice? Like you have to do a lot of work to get there. And then all those other teams have to stay put.
Well, and they can't because, of course,
Correct.
Illinois goes to Wisconsin, and one of them has to lose that game, according to my understanding of the game of basketball.
I think that's right. Are we in the playoffs yet? Do we get double overtime?
Yeah. What are the playoff rules? Because we should know them before we go into the game. Someone from last night. Just a terrible decision. Just terrible.
Sometimes you need to just keep your mouth quiet.
Yeah. Don't admit that. Don't admit you didn't know the rules to overtime after you lose an overtime game in the biggest game of the year. Maybe let that one go by you.
Was it a Buccaneer guy? Someone admitted that way long ago they didn't know they didn't get the ball back in overtime, even though it had never been that way before in the history.
Yeah.
Was it Mike Evans?
I feel like it might have been. I remember him saying
Evans.
something. But you see, like every year in the NFL, a game goes to overtime. And then like not every year, but when a game ends in a tie, you always see NFL players come out and go, I didn't know we could end in a tie. I was ready to play more.
Well, I'm literally like double checking and reading the rules on Twitter, like as the clock's going down when it's like 30 seconds left. And there's like an existential dread in you to be like, it's going to 0. You have to call timeout right now. You can't let it run out, even though I'm looking like, no, you can. But it's just like, call it. It feels unsafe.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Big Ten basketball. Right. Purdue, again, 2.5 game lead.
Also,
they're looking at
what hell is wrong with Illinois? Why are they giving Tom Izzo this one last lifeboat of getting into the tournament this season? They couldn't have played worse or handed that game over to Michigan State anymore if they tried.
The last 3.5 minutes of that second half were an absolute clinic of how not to play a basketball game by Illinois. I mean, they were up 8 points with about 3.5 to go, allowed an 8-0 run to get the game tied, and then just absolutely collapsed down the stretch. I mean, couldn't do anything.
Maybe Purdue is like the worst team in the last 3 minutes of any game because they made Illinois look like a clutch team that could play late.
Yeah, that's true.
And like Marcus Damascus just throwing the ball to Michigan State, just back-to-back turnovers in like the worst fashion. I mean, I think we've always known the capability of Coleman Hawkins and what lurks beyond inside his head in game. But just holy cow, just talk about losing. That's a team that has very bad vibes right now. I think there was a lot of times through the season where, they seemed like they had some juice, had some toughness. But whatever it is going on down there, when it goes bad in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you've maintained throughout the entirety of this podcast that the Big Ten is bad and that
Very bad.
Purdue is going to win the Big Ten by, you said, I believe at one point, 5 games.
I think I said
you walked it back. You walked it
4.
back. I believe you said 4. So 2.5 games up now. Guaranteed 1 loss for either Illinois or Wisconsin. Purdue is in a string of a 6-game run here where we're looking at, we think they should win every game. Now, that means
I think that about their schedule going all the way through 8.
Right. But if they win these next 5 now, because we just beat IU, that would put them at 16-2 in the conference. 2 games remaining. Those 2 games, of course, are at Illinois and home against Wisconsin. So those are their 2 toughest games remaining. There's always a possibility that something happens, they lose those 2. But even then, you're looking at 16-4.
Am I crazy? That Wisconsin team does not scare me for Purdue in any capacity at home.
I mean, at home, Purdue's a different team. But when we looked at the game in Madison, Purdue certainly, as we said, didn't play their A game and still found a way to just keep punching Wisconsin away, stay up 8, 9. It got down a little bit there at the end, but Purdue, again, found a way, as they always do. And it didn't really feel like it was in doubt. And I think Wisconsin played their game that they wanted to play in that one. So if you transport that to Mackey Arena, I think Purdue should handle that one for sure.
Yeah, it's just hard to think, like, in most of these games, like, who's the guy that's going to, like, go have a game against Purdue?
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, Illinois has a couple candidates. Sure.
Right.
Wisconsin, I guess you can say Wall, because he did it once. I mean, Store's certainly capable of it, but Purdue seemed to handle that pretty well at home. But when you look at, Minnesota, Ohio State, Rutgers, Michigan, like, what in Michigan State just doesn't win in Mackey. Doesn't happen.
No. Even much better Michigan State teams.
Yeah. And they all have weaknesses that Purdue can, like, pick on. Like, Michigan State doesn't have big guys.
Barely. No, they do not.
Like, Akeem Hart is good. He was really good against Purdue last year. But it's not, he kind of lives by being a bully 4 full time at Michigan State. You're not really going to bully Purdue's 4s inside.
No.
So like, it's starting to look like this thing is wrapped up, tapped up, done up, ready to go out. It's just conference over. It'll be interesting to see how Purdue holds on to that. Miles Colvin got into the game a little bit.
He did.
There are things happening that I think Purdue is perhaps looking forward a little bit, because I was a little. I mean, we can get into that when we talk about the game, but like, I think it's an interesting. Just what are we going to see from Matt Painter in these last few games? Because he's rested guys a little more during the week, during practice. Just little shifts around the edge that, honestly, unless you're super tuned in or you're watching practices, you're not going to really notice. Like, there are subtle shifts, and are those going to become maybe a little more exaggerated as Purdue walks into the last of their schedule? Pretty much, it would be as shocking that Purdue doesn't win the Big Ten as it would be not to get a number 1 seed.
Yeah.
And that is a rare thing for a college basketball coach to have in his back pocket this early in the season.
Yeah. And so, final thought on this before we take a break and go look at the IU game, because I think if you're a listener of this podcast, if you watch this podcast on YouTube, you know that Casey and I, from the very beginning, have been of the belief that Purdue will win the Big Ten, that they would win it back-to-back years. It was just a question to us of how many games they would win it by. And
over under 3, what are you taking right now?
Oh, man. Over under 3. Purdue's got, I think at this point, I'd take the over.
Right?
I mean, it could, yeah. I think you have to, because if we truly believe, as I think both of us do, that Purdue's going to win at the very minimum, their next 5, that means they're 16-2 with 2 games left. At that point, If Purdue wins those next 5 games, they've clinched at least a share of the Big Ten.
Yep.
Regardless of Illinois and Wisconsin, they will have won a share of the Big Ten if they win their next 5 games. So I think keeping that in mind, the team is going to be motivated to wrap that up as soon as possible. And Painter's going to want that too, to your point, because it then gives him a little bit of leeway to rest people a little bit more, because everybody wants to get that 1 seed. Everybody wants to have success in March and April. But from a personal standpoint, they also want that Big Ten title. They want the championship, they want the ring, they want to be listed on a name of, Big Ten champion forever. So they want that as well. But to be able to wrap it up with 2 games to go would be huge for them. And I still think they're going to want to go hard on those last 2 games. So I think I would have to take the over. What about you?
Yeah, I think they'll win out. And if you do that math, you pretty much have to say, at worst, they're 3 games. And it's one of those things where you look not just in the Big Ten, but like nationally, you're looking at Purdue and UConn both with 2 losses. Houston has 3 losses. The next closest team is Arizona and Auburn, both with 5 losses. So there's a few teams thrown in there with 5 losses, but like there is a cushion.
Right. Yeah. To maintain a 1 seed.
Yeah. I don't think Matt Painter is ever going to go into a game coaching with that.
Oh, no.
But I do think like Miles Colvin might get a little more run going forward. I think there are things to do. I wouldn't be shocked, I guess, but like Zach Edey playing, I'm less worried about Zach Edey because he showed it last year that he can just do this every week.
Yeah.
But like Braden Smith, can we keep his minutes to 30 a game?
I would love that.
Because that would be, I think if you can do that, that's, worth the rub later.
Yeah. I think that's right. So we're going to take a break. Big Ten race wrapped up in a nice little bow. We don't need to worry about that anymore. Going to take a break, come back, talk about Purdue taking down IU in Mackey Arena in just pedestrian fashion.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast.
And we are back. Now we're going to cover Purdue's takedown of IU in Mackey Arena. That is a 2-game sweep on the season for Purdue versus IU. Casey, you said as we took a break, you had a question for me to start this segment off, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Well, I think as a person of good cheer, who someone wants to have good sportsmanship throughout, who wants fair things, good things, I think we should be better people to each other. So my question is, at what point should Purdue have taken their starters out in the IU game to make it fair? I'm thinking
halftime.
10 minutes to go in the first half.
Okay. I was surprised how long the starters played, especially Edey and Smith, because, as you said in the last segment, Edey has shown an ability to just grind it out every game. His endurance, his stamina is incredible. Braden Smith and, to a lesser extent, well, maybe not lesser extent, but Fletcher Lawyer last year, we both saw them kind of decline a little bit, get tired as the year went on. You're going from high school where you're not playing this many games. They're not as arduous. They're not as grinding. You don't have to travel as much to the college level where it's just, 2 games a week, 3 games a week, whatever it is. And there's more of them. So you get tired, you get worn down. So as Purdue was up by, 25, 24, 26, and Smith and Edey are still out there, I was kind of scratching my head. I didn't really understand it. I mean, the game was well in hand. Purdue was not gonna fall apart and lose that game. And if the game were to suddenly find itself a ball game, if IU finds their way back into it, Painter would just throw those guys back out there and they'd, counter punch and it'd be fine. So I was surprised. Were you surprised that they were in there that long?
No, not really. Just because it's the defense, it's the team getting blown out that makes that decision. They've got to bring it is generally the team above is going to keep playing their guys as long as you have your good guys out there, because you don't want a quick 8-0 run. And if you go full bench,
I suppose
if you go full bench, it never got it was 26 early, but towards the late there it was hanging around the 20.
Yeah.
So a 6-8-0 run is 12 points.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's a game. So I get it was kind of a standoff on both sides. It's one of those where is it a little bit because it's the last time Zach Edey will play IU?
I think it could have been.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't coach scared. And I think taking your players out sometimes is the scared move.
I don't know that
you're being a little cute. You're being a little cute if you're I can start massaging this game at 22. But I think a lot of it is too, you don't want that narrative of, oh, IU pushed it to 14. Ooh, they cut it in.
Yeah.
A little bit like Illinois, because Purdue took their feet off the gas against Illinois a little bit. And what happened? It became
now Illinois thinks they can come in and when we go there, they think they're going to beat us because we're terrible. And look what they did without Terrence Shannon and what they're going to do now. So,
and goodness, are Illinois fans cut from the same cloth as IU guys?
Yeah, man. That it was something has happened to Illinois fans over these last couple years. Maybe it's they're taking on Underwood's attitude because he's very, in your face. He'll yell on the sidelines. He's really intense. Because if you say anything as a Purdue fan on Twitter these days, if you say anything as a Purdue fan on Twitter these days, an Illinois fan is going to come into your mentions and just talk crap. It'll have nothing to do with Illinois. It'll have nothing to do with anything. But Illinois fans are going to insert themselves in that narrative, and I don't know what it is. But let's hear your theory.
So in movies where the unlikable try hard character has a to-do list of what likable people do.
Right.
And they think just checking those boxes and doing those things oh, we play hard. we got a tough coach. We got a tough coach. He real tough. If we play a lot of press and we do these things, we're tryhards. We're good folk.
So you think they just want people to like them?
Yeah. They think they're a likable, plucky bunch, and really they're just annoying.
And really, no one likes them. So
No one
now,
likes
instead of
Mhm.
being the team that wants people to like them, now they're like, "Oh, fine, you hate us. Well, we're going to
Yeah.
be ourselves now, and we've
Mhm.
really been terrible this whole time."
Right. Yeah, it's worse.
Yeah. I suppose that makes sense. That makes sense. So,
I mean, they exist in like a weird spot in the Big Ten. Because I get shocked every time where they're like, Brad Underwood has had like the most successful Big Ten run in the last 4 seasons. And you're like, wait, what? And it's because Purdue had one bad season, but like,
right.
And you're just like, no one thinks of you that way. And that's gotta be hurtful.
That does have to be frustrating. Yeah. Especially because I think they might even be like first, second, or third. I don't remember of Big Ten wins like all time in men's basketball. I cannot remember.
I think it's third now.
Okay. I know it's like us, IU, and Illinois, but I think IU's first and we're second.
In Big Ten wins?
Yeah, I think so.
Like wins overall as a program or in the Big Ten?
I think it was just Big Ten, the graphic I saw, but it was weirdly worded. So don't take that as gospel.
That's fine. But yeah, I mean, we're still talking about the IU game, I suppose, which matters. Speaking of a team in a weird spiral.
Yeah.
So can we talk about the press conference afterwards? I've never.
Well, before we get into that, I have a couple questions for you about this IU team. If I put the 9 players, I think IU had 9 players play in this game. If I put those 9 players just on Mackey Arena, on Katie Court right now, and I said, name every one of these players. I don't give you names. I don't give you sheets of paper like to pull from. How many do you think you could successfully name?
It's like 7.
I don't think I could do that many. I could get maybe 3.
I would just have to distinguish between Galloway and Cups. Cups.
Galloway I can get easily.
Cups would be the one you're looking down at.
I mean, I'm not looking down at anybody.
Yeah. I don't think like talent's not a super big issue with them. I think they have some.
No, I don't mean talent. I just mean it feels like a very forgettable IU
It
team.
is, yeah.
Like, in years past, there's been at least somebody who has been a standout, even on a bad team.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, it's just like they got a bunch of guys, and they don't really mean anything to me. Like, it's weird, like an indifference.
They're kind of in the aftershock of like the TJD era going out, and Mike Woodson hasn't exactly created a system that's like creating new guys. I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis were that team last year. This year it should be like Khalil Ware and Malik Renew are good big men. They are talented. They are tall. They should be matchup issues. It just doesn't ever feel that way. And how much of that does IU lack a guard that can really get things working at all times? That's definitely part of it. Yeah, they
definitely lack that. Yeah. To answer your question, what I believe was rhetorical, but I'm going to let you know they do lack that.
So that is definitely part of it. Another part is just that whatever they're running's not, it just kind of melts away a little bit. Like there's some decent action early and then it just all kind of stops. Mbako should be a star. He's miscast a little bit as a 3. It works against Purdue because Purdue doesn't have a 3. Like felt like your lawyer's not going to torch him at the other end.
True.
And he's able to bully him at that side. But in general, Mbako should be a super talented, super quick athletic 4. And he can't be on this roster because they have 4 guys and 3 of them should be post players.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to your point, I mean, this IU offense, they started out the game great. They scored, I think, their first 4 buckets maybe on really good passing, crisp passing, ball movement, getting to the hoop and scored really easily, honestly. And then that was it. Purdue was like, oh no, we're not going to allow you to do that all game. And then after that, they really just kind of sputtered for most of the rest of the game.
Mike Woodson strikes me as a guy who's been in the NBA a long time. He's kind of used to players figuring it out themselves. And it doesn't seem like he's offering many answers and help with his guys to make it easier out there. I think he's got a laid back, sit back kind of players coach mentality where he trusts these guys to figure things out. And like, that's a tough ask for a college team.
Yeah.
Especially when you're that young. And like, it's also weird too, because after the game, he's mentioning like, we just don't have experience. Who's that on?
Right.
I mean, you put a lot of eggs in the Xavier Johnson basket, and I don't think anyone here would say that is a sturdy call. That's a good thing.
No, I mean, even if he hadn't hurt his arm or his shoulder, elbow, whatever it was, he's not exactly a guy you build a team around.
No.
I mean, he's talented. A lot of IU fans thought he was better than Braden Smith, I want to point out. Purdue fans were mocked mercilessly by multiple IU accounts last year for saying, I think I'd take Braden Smith over Xavier Johnson, Braden Smith, blah, blah, blah. And they just got mocked mercilessly for
Gabe Cupps as well, apparently.
If we're even believing that Braden Smith could do anything better than Xavier Johnson. And Xavier Johnson has had a year, again, minus the injury, putting that aside, one of the worst years you could imagine for a guy who's supposed to be a leader of a major Big Ten program.
Yeah, he's been living on like one hot stretch in his career for a long time.
Yeah.
He's not consistently brought that day to day. There's obvious issues with his shot. Just the idea that he is a savior for this team is bonkers. Like, you're not paying attention to the rest around him.
No.
There's still a lack of shooting. I don't know how CJ Gunn's not more involved. Like, he's like one of the two guys that can shoot. One guy that can shoot. There's just stuff that like you could trigger, like easy buttons to hit that like really good coaches hit on. And it really feels like Mike Woodson's just like, they got to figure it out themselves.
Which is, as you said, a bold strategy when, half your team, well, more than half your team, almost everyone on this IU team is not going to be playing basketball professionally. These guys are going to be, insurance salesmen, or, they're going to go to get a master's degree, or some of them might become lawyers, or, whatever they're going to do. Like, these guys aren't playing basketball forever. They're not getting paid millions of dollars to do this. Mike Woodson is the one getting paid millions of dollars to do this. So he should maybe take a lot of more ownership. But I have a feeling something was said to this in the press conference. What happened at the press conference?
So, first of all, I don't know what IU's like sports broadcasting program is doing. There's no reason to have 95 students go to an away game.
Like, as journalists?
Yeah. Just.
I heard it was very crowded in the press row.
You got a kid there with a tripod up on a table at press row, blocking out the view behind him. That's always solid.
No, that's not nice.
But that's inside baseball stuff. But the first two questions after the game by well-known, been around beat writers, talk to Mike Woodson all the time. How does this team improve? Caveat, in the offseason. What can this team do in the offseason? Like, Mike Woodson in his second answer had to be like, guys, the season's not over. We have 7 games left.
Yeah.
The season's not done. Ooh. And that is the state of the program. That's
not good.
The media thinking about the program. That's how the fans feel. And it's wild because this team, what's got to be terrifying. And if you want to talk about a reason for this is the year to move on from Mike Woodson,
would love to hear it.
Khalil Ware is going to the NBA next season. Is Malik Renew going to stick around? Maybe. Is Mackenzie Mbako? He could be an NBA guy. He's got great size, good skill. Trey Galloway's a senior. CJ Gunn's a sophomore. Anthony Leal, the spark that was supposed to save them, senior.
Yeah.
You're bringing Peyton Sparks back, maybe Malik Renew, maybe Mbako.
Yeah, but they got a 5-star coming in. They got a 5-star coming in.
They have one guy.
He's going to fix everything.
One guy who plays also the same position as Mbako.
Does he really?
Yeah, he's like a big forward wing type.
I've just seen a picture of him, and if I'm remembering correctly, he has
He's
majestic
good.
hair.
He's
Majestic
good.
hair.
He's good. But like, what are you doing here? Because like, honestly, there's nothing. There's been no signs this season of anything Mike Woodson's going to do to improve this team. Xavier Johnson could come back again. He's not going to get better this season.
You mean things he's gonna do to improve them in the season?
Yeah, like it's a fair question because like clearly nothing's getting better during this season. You haven't figured anything out 24 games into the season. What are we pretending to know that's going to happen in the next day or two? So,
right, what's he going to figure out?
Yeah, like who's going to be your guard next year? Who's your point guard?
I mean this IU team has problems up and down the roster, not the least of which is roster construction. But I mean, they shot 4 of 16 from 3, and that was probably decent for them because they had that game against Illinois where they didn't make a single 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, to your point about CJ Gunn, they hit 4 threes. That guy hit 3 of them.
Yeah. Which, by the way, obviously, a little clickbaity on the title last episode. I'll own that. But I've got to juice it up somehow because it's boring, and it was boring, and everything I said turned out to be true because this was a 20-point game from tip to finish.
Yeah.
Like they had 8 minutes of like competent basketball.
I mean, it's amazing we've gone this far without mentioning that Zach Edey did hit a 3-point shot. The first 3 of his career. So he's officially 50% from 3 on the season and in his career, I believe.
Bank shot.
Because he's only taken 2. Yeah. So it's when you feel confident as Zach Edey to take that 3 against your main rival, you know something has gone wrong because Zach Edey's not doing that if it's a game. Zach Edey's not doing that if it's like a 4-point game and there's 2 or 3 minutes left on the clock. Absolutely not.
Right.
And if he does, Painter's gonna be mad at him. He's like,
Zach Edey might have earned a little bit of leash.
Oh, absolutely. But how much? I don't know that the leash goes out to the 3-point line. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know if it reaches
bad shots in the paint.
His neck.
Yeah, so it'd have to be a very long leash. But it was. I mean, I've watched the replay of it probably 20 to 30 times. But when he's setting those screens, you can just see him. He's like, I'm doing it.
He was pissed he didn't get it the first time.
He's like calling for the ball. He's like clapping. He's like, come on. He wants it so bad. And then when he took it and then banked it in, of all things, against IU, just absolute perfection. You were obviously there. I was not. I was at home on the couch. Did that place just erupt when that went in?
My headphones, which I mention a lot, I wear the noise canceling, they crackled. Which I don't know if you know how noise suppression works. It doesn't really suppress the noise. It plays the opposite sound into your ear.
Yeah, I know that because I told you that.
So it could, the opposite sound of what Maggie was making was a ear rattling crackle.
Nice.
So we went into the audio void somewhere and found it's fun because it was the just right amount of realization. You had just long enough to realize, oh, he's flirting just up top there, setting the screen.
Right. Yeah. He was up
Didn't
there.
Get it the first time. He went back. And then the ball's going, and you're like, oh, is it? And it looked long. It right away, you're like, oh. And it's even better that it banked off it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It made it so much better because only his second one he's ever taken. No one uses the backboard like that. It's just not done. And I like to think he did it on purpose. I like to think right before he shot, he yelled out bank and then, banked it in. But man, what a topper for his career against IU.
Right. I think it was the second most impactful 3 of the game.
One of the Mason Gillis ones first. Which one?
Miles Colvin.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We mentioned him in the beginning. Why do you think after not playing for numerous games that he gets in and drains a 3?
Yeah, he was asked about Colvin and he didn't really get into why he was playing this game. But generally, we've seen people fall out of the rotation.
Oh, yeah.
Seen it happen a lot. He's the 10th man. He's not going to get a ton of minutes at any point. But what it tells me, knowing Matt Painter enough, being around him enough, like Miles Colvin has been locked in enough to earn those minutes again. So like that is the same role he had earlier in the season, where he kind of got the last 4 minutes of a half. See what he can do, provide a little spark on offense. And I thought in the second half too, like he didn't get a point to go down, but like there were a couple offensive rebounds where he almost got to. And just like his athleticism when he's on the court, it's something.
Yeah.
But I think just
him and Heidi both.
Yeah, just the fact that he is locked in enough to earn those minutes again. So like what's happening in practice, what's happening away from the camera is like Colvin is putting the work in to stay at it. And I think I think it matters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was gonna echo that. I mean, when it happens to a guy who's as talented and as heralded as Colvin, it can be the first time it's ever happened in his life.
Mm.
You know, we mention it all the time. These are guys who were stars in high school, who were the best player on their team, the best player in their county, maybe even the best player in their state, in the tri-state area. Then suddenly you come to college and everybody was like that at one point. And you're looking around and you've still got that belief that I'm the best player out here. And then suddenly you see your minutes go away. You see, did not play coach's decision numerous times. It's a big question of how that player is going to respond. Are they going to, blame the coach or blame other factors? Or are they going to say, I got to do better. I'm going to put in the work. And for Miles Colvin to find himself back on the court says a great deal about him and the kind of player he is and the kind of player he's going to be for Purdue in the future. But I also think it's good because it gives Purdue yet another guy who can come in off the bench and provide some instant offense, because Purdue didn't have that last year when they lost in the first round.
Right.
Everybody who came in was scared, didn't want to shoot the ball. Miles Colvin will never be scared to shoot the ball. And that is a hell of an attribute to have coming off the bench, having not played for the last 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, his natural form is a jump shot. Like that's just how he's comfortable existing in the universe. And I think it's good for the team. I don't think the season's going to hinge at any point on Miles Colvin minutes. I don't think Painter is orchestrating it that way or wants it to be that way. But I think going into the offseason, for Miles Colvin personally, like you add that 3. His last game, he put up 9 points in 7 minutes of action. 2 games before that, when he got playing time, he put up 7 points in 12 minutes. It's working when he's out there, at least offensively. And the big thing above just like there's going to be more playing time next year with Zach Edey, because there will be.
Yeah.
But it's exponentially more room than that, because the amount of shots that are going to be available next year compared to this year is going to be insane. The amount of possessions that end with Edey in the post on the free throw or taking looks, those are all going to, some of those will go to Trey. Purdue's not feeding the ball 40 times into Trey next year. It's going to be
absolutely not.
The first refusal is going to be Braden Smith. Who do you want to score this possession? And he will find whoever. So the offense is going to look way different next year. It fits perfectly for what Miles Colvin does. And if you can just get enough good things this season, see enough to like get him hungry for the summer,
right?
To get him in a good place to be like, this is going to work when you're out there. So it's always disappointing. He's obviously too talented to redshirt. So you're not really worried about burning that year, even though maybe, but like the idea of Miles being here in 5 years is insane.
Yeah.
But like to be able to just get these little good moments so you can carry over, that you can think about during the summer, that you can like aim for, like that is important. And it's good that it's happening at this stage. Like that's a rivalry game at home against IU. And like he had a couple really good moments, and that's good. But yeah, like Heidi's good. And especially because, I was looking up the stats, and like, if it's not Mason Gillis, no one's scoring off the bench for Purdue. And if you look at anything that could worry you in March, like, you need a little bit of that. So,
I agree. So overall, I mean, I don't think Purdue played a particularly, top-notch game of theirs.
Like a B+.
And they still took down their rival by 20 points. So not a lot more needs to be said. Purdue in a great place in the Big Ten Conference. Purdue in a great place, looking for that overall #1 seed. And now their next game, it's the team that starts with an M. Casey, which one? Close.
Mississippi.
No, one more. I'll give you one more chance.
Montreal Expos.
They don't exist anymore. It is the Minnesota Golden Gophers. So that is Purdue's next game. We're not going to talk about that right now. We're going to cover that in the next one midweek. We're going to kind of look ahead to Minnesota in a shorter one. But, Purdue dominant in victory over the Hoosiers. That is a season sweep against the Hoosiers. And look, things are looking great in the Big Ten. So you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all your podcast platforms. We are the Old Gold Show. Thanks so much for joining us. Like, rate, review, subscribe.